All right, man, peace. So the young up-and-coming coach of the Memphis Grizzlies, David Fizdale, was recently relieved of duty. He was recently fired due to a rift between him and the star center of the Memphis Grizzlies, Marc Gasol. Of course, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in. And prior to getting to the segment, Jason Whitlock had an excellent skit that he produced in regards to the liberal movements that are associated with the NBA and fact versus fiction in regards to the NBA and how it treats black coaches. So, of course, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
Greg Popovich, LeBron James, the Nike marketers who slapped equality T-shirts on the Duke basketball team, and everyone else who thinks...
Let me say this before Whitlock goes on. I've noticed a proliferation of T-shirts that are being utilized by many of these top coaches in the NCAA. Really, all that is a control mechanism. That's a way for them to try to smother any potential racial outbursts amongst their young, the young and impressionable members of their team, to show them, look, I know that you might want to speak about race, but here's how we're going to speak about race here. Once again, the racial issues that are being presented by the media to the masses are controlled. These movements are controlled for the so-called black man so that the black man is given parameters in regards to what he is allowed to think about race. This is why I castigate a lot of so-called pro-blacks, because they believe that they're aware and alert, and they're really not. And even Whitlock understands it to a degree. That's why he mocks wokeism the same way that I do, because it's not that difficult to discern and decipher what's really going on if you pay attention. But back to the issue at hand with the T-shirts. The T-shirts are meant to communicate sentiments without communication. Okay? These coaches, whether it be Tom Izzo or Mike Krzyzewski or whoever the top coaches are in the NCAA, they're basically telling their young male athletes, this is how you will be allowed to communicate about race here. It allows them, it gives them the ability as a Caucasian coach to say, look, I'm on your side, while really not being on their side. Because if you're not going to allow them to speak according to what they view the racial issue is, then you're basically playing the oppressor in a roundabout way, in an inverted way. Okay? And that's really what the Caucasian liberal is all about. Patting the black man on the head and telling him, you know what, you're really not intelligent enough to articulate how you feel about race. So let me do it for you. It's very, very patronizing.
Who thinks basketball is more woke than football? Gather around. I want to explain something to you. Equality starts at home.
I believe that when Whitlock states equality starts at home, I believe that he's talking about self-validation, which is something that I speak about a lot on this channel. The so-called black man has to be self-validated. You can't be validated by anybody else's approval. This is why I constantly go on and on about how the so-called black man who claims to be pro-black really just wants to hug. They try to act like they don't, but they really do. Okay? I know that for a fact, and a lot of cats who are pro-black might get upset by that. I know for a fact that most of you guys just really want to fucking hug.
And maybe you should examine what's going on in basketball before smugly running your mouth like your sport is some sort of racial utopia because you made Donald Sterling sell the Clippers for $2 billion. Think about that.
Yeah, think about that for a minute. I've touched on that on my channel, here and there in regards to Donald Sterling. Look, the man bought the team for $12.5 million and sold it for $1.875 billion. And we're supposed to look at him as something other than what he is, which is a brilliant businessman. You think that Donald Sterling gives a shit about what you think about how he feels about race after he basically netted, $1.8 billion off of that business transaction? Like, I mean, it's unbelievable that people actually believe that Donald Sterling played the bad guy. He didn't play the bad guy. He played the heel. Okay? He played the heel. He didn't mind looking bad because he knows that in the circles that he runs in, he's not going to be considered bad. And as I've stated, to me, that was a totally contrived event that was set up to help ingratiate the incoming commissioner, Adam Silver, with the players. It was meant to usher in that era of wokeism that we see now in the NBA. Now, we saw it a little bit at the very, very end of David Stern's tenure, particularly with the Trayvon Martin issue. But by then, Adam Silver was already running the NBA anyway. So, we kind of saw a little glimpse of what this era in regards to the NBA was going to be about. But they needed a major event to kind of sear a certain image of Adam Silver into the conscience of NBA fans and also the players, to help them understand what his rulership would be about. It's like anywhere you go, whether it be a country or a kingdom or a corporation, an incoming owner or an incoming decision maker wants to let you know, this is how I'm going to carry myself. This is what my provisions are going to be. This is what my protocol is going to be. So it was essential for Adam Silver to ingratiate himself with the players, because he needs them to be the infantry, because he is a so-called liberal Caucasian Jew. So he doesn't mind appearing as if he's going to team up with the players on black issues, because he's going to want them to co-sign him when he comes to them and says, look, we need to push and promote feminism and homosexuality, aka quote unquote equality. So he's going to need their backing. So he does not mind acting as if he's concerned with so-called black issues. The perfect event to make them feel that he cared about so-called black issues was the Donald Sterling issue. Everybody knew Donald Sterling was a racist. David Stern knew it, but they're blood brothers. They're Caucasian Jews. So Adam Silver comes in, also a Caucasian Jew, and he decides, he probably gets in the back room with Donald Sterling and says, look, Donald, you want out, and you're really not good for our league. You're not good for business. So here's what we're going to do. All right. And it's really no problem, because nobody loses here. Donald Sterling did not lose.
Sterling paid $12.5 million for the team in 1981. I digress. What I want to focus on is the fact the NBA has the exact same number of black coaches as the NFL. 7. That's right. Adam Silver's NBA has half as many black coaches as it did 5 years ago. The Black Power League isn't empowering black coaches. It's no better in college basketball. Of the 75 major conference coaching jobs, just 14 of them are held by black coaches. That's 9 less than in 2005.
Well, once again, that's because so-called black men, they believe that they're going to be empowered by siding with liberal Caucasians, and they're really just being used. And I made a video a long time ago asking the question rhetorically, do black players respect black coaches? Remember, the black coach represents an authority figure. That's what he represents. Most of these young black males are being raised in single mother households where they are taught, and there is an image imbued in their mind of an older black male as somebody who is incompetent and unworthy of leading them. So that resonates in coaching, in the coaching world, where we already know most of the elite Caucasian men who run most of these corporations known as sports teams do not trust the so-called black man in a position of authority. And we already know that most of the young black male athletes don't trust the black man in a position of authority because they were not raised in a household with a black man who showed authority and decision making. So it's a recipe for disaster.
In terms of coaching equality, basketball is going backwards. But you're unlikely to hear about a word about any of this because the media is in love with Pop and LeBron because they take pot shots at President Trump.
Yes, absolutely. And as I've stated already in regards to LeBron has the liberal sports media backing him. That's why I'm not impressed with most of his rhetoric in regards to race, which is normally very simplistic. Nothing against him. He's a great businessman and he is conscientious, at least in regards to how his image is projected. He's conscientious in regards to his race and the area that he comes from. But it doesn't impress me. And none of his statements impress me because he knows that the media is going to back him, as will his corporate sponsors. Okay. Now, what would impress me is if he was making statements that would cause him to get stripped of his endorsements. Would he do that? We all know the answer is no. Okay. In regards to Popovich, Popovich has done a great job in making people think that he cares about certain issues that would align him with a liberal form of thought. As I've touched on in the past, Popovich has a CIA background. You could look that up. He did go in for CIA training. I have little doubt that he understands how to create a cult of personality, which he has been very successful in doing. Why is he doing that? Because how else is he going to lure in free agents to San Antonio, which is looked at as a backwater city? You know, the reason why people can talk about, with some form of clarity and believability that LeBron James may go to San Antonio is because of Popovich and the image that he has created for himself as a person who is actually concerned with the issues of the quote unquote little people. Do I believe that Popovich is really sincerely concerned, as he tries to act like he is, with the plight of the little man or the plight of black people in America? No, I do not. I just don't. But I believe that he's very shrewd. I believe that he's utilizing a lot of mind control tactics to make people believe that he is, which is a good job by him. How else is he going to get free agents to come to play with him?
Trump. And because the media are determined to prove football is the worst thing in sports because Colin Kaepernick doesn't have a job. I'm going to make this prediction. In 25 years, there will be just as many white women coaching in the NBA as black men.
That's interesting. Do I believe that? No, I don't. I believe that there will be one or two Caucasian women coaching in the NBA in 25 years if this society is still around in that time period. There will be at least one white female head coach in the NBA by that time period. But I touched on this already because Adam Silver came out and stated months ago that he wants a Caucasian female coach in the NBA. Of course, he didn't say Caucasian, but what else is she going to be? It's not going to be a black woman. All right, it's going to be a Caucasian female coach in the NBA. And I did a video about it. I think it was like 2 or 3 parts, about 6 or 7 months ago. So I have little doubt that that is truly what that's about. Once again, they don't want the so-called black man in a position of leadership. And most of the so-called black men that you do see in positions of leadership, they're just proxy rulers. Meaning they act as the front, the face, the storefront of a business that's really going on behind the scenes, proverbially speaking. In other words, the black coach or the black GM, he just has to, his job is just to repeat what upper management wants him to say. That normally is what the corporate structure is in most of these environments.
Equality is a slogan liberals are feeding to black people and a reality liberals are creating for others.
Agreed.
Welcome back.
Look at Steven Jackson's face. Steven Jackson says, let me fix my papers. It's going to be a long segment.
We're joined now by founder of the Big League, Jason McIntyre, NBA champ, and Chandler Parsons' best friend, Steven Jackson. Let's move to Memphis, where the Grizzlies have fired head coach David Fizdale, well-liked guy, after the team's 8th straight loss, dropping to 7-12 on the year. The firing prompted shock from some guys who played under Fizdale. He was an assistant in Miami with LeBron James tweeting, quote, "I need some answers. Feels like my man was a fall guy." And Dwayne Wade adding, quote, "I need answers."
Well, look, here's the thing. Both those guys play for Cleveland, so they really don't deserve any answers. But I will give them credit for standing up for their homeboy. But if anybody needed someone to say I need answers when they got fired, it's when Lionel Hollins got fired. All right, Lionel Hollins took that team to the conference finals and got fired. Okay? That man took the team to the conference finals, Lionel Hollins did, and got fired. So that's the person that people needed to say, I need answers when he got fired, not David Fizdale.
Answers. WTF. Whitlock. Fizdale get a raw deal?
Yeah, I got some answers for him. I don't follow Memphis well enough to know whether he individually got a raw deal, but I got some answers for Dwayne Wade and LeBron James and anybody else wondering why Earl Watson and now David Fizdale have been fired, why the NBA has far less black coaches than it has in the previous 10, 15 years. Analytics. And the analytics-driven front offices don't work for former black players who are coaches, don't work for black coaches. And The NBA is going backwards in terms of coaching diversity. No one's talking about it. Everybody ignores it because the NFL is so racist, and we must focus on that. And things are perfect in the NBA where the progressive liberals have everything just the way they want it. Analytics, Silicon Valley, all of this social media stuff that everybody thinks is great for black people, it's actually death. And you're watching the death of black coaches in the NBA.
Well, number one, let me say that Whitlock is absolutely correct. That was the justification for firing Lionel Hollins, was that he wasn't as receptive to analytics as they wanted him to be. They brought in Dave Yeager because he was a company man, and obviously Dave Yeager ended up getting fired. He followed all the analytics, and they were never anywhere near as successful as they were under Lionel Hollins. You know, they had a little bit of success under Yeager, but that pretty much was the residue from Lionel Hollins. But I agree with Whitlock. They are using the analytics excuse as a way to eliminate many so-called black coaches from the ranks, because most so-called black coaches in the NBA, they utilize the eye test. Why? Because many of them played.
Yeah, because of analytics.
My question to you would be, why aren't they embracing analytics? I mean, I know Byron Scott was never an analytics guy.
Charles Barkley. I talked to a Hall of Fame NBA player today about this very issue, and former coach, former front office person, and it's just, I'm anti-analytics. To be quite honest with you, I'm more into human interaction, the chemistry on the team, things like that. Everybody, the whole media has gone analytics from I'm not bad, Zach Lowe's a talented guy, but everybody's writing about stats.
Yep.
Well,
Yeah, but it might.
Well, look, let me say this. And he mentioned Zach Lowe. Zach Lowe is the big hook-nosed Caucasian Jewish dude on ESPN who, tries to talk as if he's a basketball expert. Analytics, I call that the revenge of the nerds, right? Analytics is what allows people who never played and couldn't play if their life depended on it, but who sat in front of a television and wished that they could play. It allows them to speak with a level of expertise. What analytics is a form of quantifiable data to present to an owner, to tell the owner, this is why we're losing. Because many owners don't understand the game. So they need some form of empirical data so that they can justify why they're going to fire somebody or why they're going to hire someone. Okay? It's like any other corporation where they want to use data to determine how productive a worker is. That's the source behind the whole analytics thing. But beyond that, the so-called black coach has never been supported in the NBA, even before the analytics time period. So the analytics is just the newest excuse to remove any form of black male leadership over other black males.
But
no one's evaluating the human beings. And
to me, this feels really simple. Is that Magic got coaches fired, MJ got coaches fired, LeBron's had coaches run, and Marc Gasol's not as good as those players, but
not on the same planet.
Not on the same planet, but star player unhappy. It's been confirmed now. He and Fizdale struggled. The NBA.
That's not why he got fired, in my opinion. No. Marc Gasol, those guys you just rattled off names, Hall of Famers. The reason he got fired. Remember last year when he said, "Take that data" or whatever.
Yes, he said, "Take that for data," and that's a great pickup by Whitlock.
The big statement. Again, everybody thought he was sparring with the media and about the refs. I think he was taking a shot at his front office.
Yes.
And again, it's an analytics-driven team, and these guys want to come down. They never played the game, never really coached. They just want to come down. The same thing the Cleveland Browns got going on in football.
Yes, Sashi Brown, right? Sashi Brown was supposed to save that franchise. They're worse than they've ever been. At the end of the day, nobody with bifocals on is going to come into any organization and teach you how to win. They make a big deal about, what happened out there with the Oakland A's and Billy Beane. Well, look, the reason why they were able to make that work is because they were able to utilize stats in baseball. Baseball is a stat-driven sport more than any other sport. Baseball is. Because baseball is the only team game where, for the most part, players are playing individually in a team game. You still have the team concept. bunting runners over and sacrifice flies and, shifts on defense, things of that nature. But when you're up there at bat, you're all by yourself. In the NBA and the NFL, chemistry is more important than any other team sport, at least in regards to the three major American team sports. And they tried to take the baseball, the baseball paradigm, the baseball model of utilizing analytics to create a winning team and transfer it over to football and basketball. And it's really not as transferable as they'd like it to be.
Football, here's what the numbers say, here's what the data says. And if you're not on message about the data, they're running you out.
It's happening in baseball with some managers.
It's happening everywhere. It's happening to the media. Everything here, social media. If Twitter and Facebook don't do this, you're not talking about the right thing.
What was your reaction?
Before Steven Jackson goes on to, let me also say the analytics data excuse that they're using to remove a lot of people, both black and white, but mostly black leadership, because a lot of the Caucasian leadership, they're going to go along with the data, because many of the Caucasian coaches in the NBA and the NFL, they never played. So they're less likely to believe that they just understand the game intrinsically than most of the black coaches. I would say that 98 to 99% of black coaches in the NFL and the NBA played. And I'm sure that the percentage is far lower amongst the Caucasian coaches. But also, besides that, the whole analytic excuse, that is really a way to mechanize human beings. Okay? And this is why I call corporate America a cult. And a lot of these sports franchises are starting to operate in a more corporate fashion. It's really a way to mechanize human beings, to make them think like robots. It's not about what you sense or what you see or what you feel. It's all about what the data says.
What's your reaction?
Well, I definitely felt like he got a raw deal. I mean, if you don't think that black coaches get put on the short string, then you're naive. I mean, look at Hoiberg in Chicago. How long has he been there?
Great point.
They haven't won. He's still there. Nobody's talking about his job. And it's simple. You can't expect the coach to get a team to win and to go to war without no soldiers. Zach's gone. Tony Allen's gone. You got guys that's making $100 million that average 9 points. That don't add up. So
that's another shot. That's another shot at his boy over there in Memphis.
I think he was dealt a raw hand, and I felt like he didn't have the right players to be successful. For just to be successful, period. You have a whole bunch of young guys that's still trying to figure their way out in the league. Marc Gasol's great. Like I said earlier, he's one of the best big men in the league. But now
Marc Gasol is a pretty good center, right? He's a good center who gets away with a lot because it's assumed that he's intelligent. He's a good center who's not good enough to get anybody fired. Sorry. Well, Marc Gasol, he won a Defensive Player of the Year a couple years ago. I mean, there's nothing else that he's done to earn the gravitas to get somebody fired.
But now, Mark, you want to get coaches fired? You need to go look in the mirror. The 7-footers that's in the league now, they getting triple doubles. They playing point guard. So you fall into the back of the line with the big fellas. So your pull is getting real slim. Yeah. I don't think you have the right to the power to fire someone because you're not even a top 5 big man right now.
It's a tough spot for Gasol, right? I mean, are they rebuilding or are they still a playoff team? Right. Exactly, and I don't think the front office knows. And you made a great point about the analytics because a former guy from our rival network is in that front office, and they're driving analytics hard. And guess what's happening? They got Mike Conley making a lot of money. He's hurt. They got Chandler Parsons, your guy, making a lot of money. He never plays.
Yeah, that's his boy, Chandler Parsons. Steven Jackson hates Chandler Parsons with a passion because of his contract. Hey, look, man. We know why Chandler Parsons got that huge deal. People looked at him and hoped for some reason that he would be another Larry Bird. Okay? He's been a nobody in the league for a very long time now.
And they got a lot of D-League guys on that roster. And if you can't get along with the star and the front office says, hey, this is what we're doing, because we've been to the playoffs 7 years in a row. That's the third best streak in the NBA, by the way. Yep. They can't rebuild. You were in Indiana, Memphis. These guys can't rebuild.
I agree. And that goes along with the point that I made about Popovich. That is why it's very important for him to create that cult of personality persona down there, because that makes San Antonio a very, very appetizing locale for free agents, because that is a backwater city. You have a lot of cities that can't rebuild. They either have to just deal with being 45 and 37 every year and going out in the first or second round so that they can keep selling tickets, or they're just going to go into oblivion for Lord knows how long.
Build, because they're small markets, then they're going to lose money, and the owners, as you guys know, they don't want that. So they feel like, oh, we're caught in this tough spot, and Gasol made him the fall guy, and now where do you go?
You need to start off the season then with telling your people that's paying for them tickets that we don't plan on winning this year.
Yeah.
They're not going to do that, Steve. They're not going to do that. It's not like the 76ers where they're going to talk about trust the process. They can't do that because it's Memphis. What else does that city really even have? What else do they have other than the Grizzlies? I think all the other professional sports teams are over in Nashville. So
No.
That's what you need to do.
Are they going to stick around?
Instead of just giving money to guys that 100 million to a guy that averages 9 points, it just don't add up. People don't like the truth, but fans deserve it.
We are seeing a revolution in basketball, and I've told you, there's only one way to win anymore: shoot threes. When I grew up, you could be a jump shooting team, you could be a physical team like the Knicks, who had a bunch of guys who couldn't shoot. There is a revolution, and if what you're saying is true, which is the black community and the coaches are not buying into analytics, it's more about the players in the game, this is another part of that revolution where I think it hurts the league. I've been saying this for 2 years. The NBA now has just come down the court, space, shoot a three.
Hey, well, you know what, Colin? Join the club, because I've been saying that for the longest time as well. All the NBA right now is a big three-point shooting contest. That's why I like to watch Kyrie Irving play, because he actually has some diversity in his offensive game. He can drive to the cup, he can pull up in the mid-range, he can post up, and he can shoot long range. That's what makes him great to watch. I personally can't watch teams like the Rockets play. There's just too many long-range three-pointers for me. To me, that's just very, very unappealing. The only long-range shooting team that I could watch play is Golden State. All the teams are pretty much... There are no teams in the NBA right now that to me are just totally unwatchable. But for my taste, in regards to that style, the only team that I can really watch is Golden State. They're the only ones who play that style in a way that's appealing. Everybody else tries to play it, and they don't do as good a job with it. So I agree with Colin. I think that, back in the 90s, 80s, late 80s into the 90s, teams, they based their style off of their personnel. Now everybody wants to just play the same way, whether they have the personnel or not. And because the NBA has taken a lot of the physicality out of the game, it has stopped a lot of less talented teams from being able to close the gap on more talented teams through physicality.
Three. I don't find it as artistically, optically captivating as I did.
I don't either, because it's too easy to score now. It's just too easy to score.
What about Mark Jackson with the Golden State Warriors? They win 50 games. He's not a real analytics guy. They fire him. They bring in Steve Kerr. But what happened? They kind of, play to the analytics, and they win 70 games and a bunch of titles.
And Mark Jackson would sit here right now if he were on set and say, no. The seeds that I planted fully took root, and they won a championship.
Right.
And the fact that...
Well, let me say this about Mark Jackson. And this has been an issue for a long time amongst coaches, and I've always said this: you have certain coaches that can take you from being bad to being good, but that does not make them championship level coaches. Growing up, there were a lot of coaches that could take you from bad to good. Rick Adelman and George Karl, and guys know different names of coaches that can make you good. But to be a championship level coach, because you hear the same thing. Oh, if the Bulls had kept Doug Collins, they would have done this. No, there are different things that Phil Jackson brought to the table to make them a championship level team that Doug Collins was never going to bring. There are things that Steve Kerr brought to that team, to the Golden State Warriors, that Mark Jackson, quite frankly, was never going to bring in regards to the offensive sets and things of that nature. Now, defensively, Mark did a great job with them, but offensively, Steve Kerr just took them to a whole other level.
That Mark Jackson, having planted those seeds, still hasn't gotten another job in the NBA?
Now, that's a great point. There's no reason why Mark Jackson should not have another job. But, I think that a lot of times when you see issues like that, owners are speaking to each other. That might be a word around the campfire situation in regards to Mark Jackson. There's something that Mark Jackson's not doing. There's something that he's not accepting of. Maybe he's a little too religious. All right. Mark Jackson is an evangelical Christian, meaning what? He's one of those guys who goes out on the corner and just starts preaching what he believes the Bible is about. Okay? So, a lot of owners don't want to get involved with stuff like that. Remember, we're in a liberal era. What does that mean? Liberalism really just means tolerance for things that you like and intolerance for everything else. So, there is no room in the liberal ideology for a belief in God. Why is that? Because what goes along with liberalism? The woman over the man, the homosexual over the heterosexual, the transgender or the sexually confused over people who take a historical gender role position.
That's an indictment on the NBA. And so, again, everybody loves to beat up the NFL. No one wants, and I love these players that they want to slap equality on their T-shirts, and they're all concerned about everybody else. They won't even take care of their own sport and the opportunities for people in their own sport. They won't even speak out and talk about this. They don't even, I don't even know if they even understand what the issues are and the problems are. They spend so much time over Twitter and Facebook that they're, and think that they're woke when they're really dead ass asleep.
Yeah.
Preach. Let them know, Whitlock. Let them know what the deal is, Whitlock. I agree 100%. But look, modern day NBA is all about cultivating a brand and also going into that cult of personality persona. Once again, LeBron James, he's a two-dimensional person to me. He just is. I'm still trying to figure out when they're going to catch the guy who spray painted nigga on his front gate. That's what I'm waiting on. Okay? But these guys like him, Kevin Durant, Stephen Curry, that's why I state these guys have fallen down the woke rabbit hole. They're in the woke sunken place. Except the difference is that, at least in Get Out, in the sunken place, people knew that they were trapped. These guys believe that they're in a free environment. And they're just saying things to get more followers on Facebook and Instagram and, things of that nature to try to build up themselves and build up their brand. That's all. They don't really know what the hell they're talking about.
Yeah, I couldn't play in the NBA right now because I would have been the first guy not to stand up for a national anthem. I would have been the first guy to stand up instead of just saying that we're gonna wear T-shirts of quality. That really didn't do nothing for me. I think they should have made a bigger statement because it was an opportunity to make a bigger statement, and they didn't.
All right, coming up.
Well, obviously you saw Whitlock left that alone because he doesn't agree with that. But Steven Jackson, you're not gonna be in the NBA today, brother. Ain't nobody trying to have somebody jumping up into the 20th row to whoop somebody's ass no more. But anyway, very, very interesting to see where this will go, particularly in regards to black coaches and the analytics issue. Let's see if some of the woke athletes jump on that. But anyway, peace.